John Glenn is a true space pioneer and American hero. Most people know he was the first American to orbit the Earth and a former U.S. Senator. Well, Leo caught up with him earlier this month during Space Day in Washington, D.C.
Senator Glenn, thank you for joining us.
Glad to. Thank you.
It's a real honor to meet you. Do you remember when you first got interested in flight?
Oh, yeah. You know, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, my dad, there was a plane that was taking people up for rides. Open cockpit, the Waco airplane, open cockpit. My dad wanted to know if I wanted to go up. And so he and I went up together and flew around Cambridge, Ohio for maybe 15 minutes. And looking down up there 2,000 or 3,000 feet up, whatever we were, I was hooked at that time. Went home and I built model airplanes and later on wanted to learn to fly, but of course those were days of the Great Depression and there wasn't much money. And then in college there was an opportunity through what was called the Civilian Pilot Training Program. Government would pay for your flight training just in light planes and local airfield, and you could get credit for physics for it in college, and I thought that was too good to miss. So I had my private pilot's license when World War II started. Right. And then after Pearl Harbor, I immediately volunteered to go into military flight training.
Right. Did you have any idea as a younger man that space might be your future?
No, nobody knew anything about space back then. Right. There wasn't such a word as astronaut.
Right, right.
When I was a kid, that was invented later on after we were asked to go into the program.
Yeah. Looking back now on your space experience, of course you've been up twice. Of course, the first man to orbit the Earth, and then in 1998 on the shuttle. What do you come away with? Not merely memories, but just your thoughts about what it all means.
Well, I think what you have to realize, between those two flights, the whole purpose of the space program has changed. Back in those early days, we're trying to find out if we could even go into space and if people could work up there and could do things. And some of the doctors were even predicting that maybe your eyes would change shape because they no longer needed to be supported with the structure under the eye. And would you become gradually, your vision would go away? Would you maybe become partially blind in space? Now, of course, when I went up on the second flight, there have been 120-some manned flights in between those two things. And the whole emphasis of the space program had changed completely. It's now oriented toward research, basic research. And that's what they're doing on the shuttle. We had 83 different research projects on the shuttle on the second flight I made in the fall of 1998.
That's a lot of work.
A lot of work is right, 83 different projects, but there were 7 of us on the flight. I was alone on the first flight.
That's right.
But there were 7 of us, and so it split up well. And the scientists, we had briefed with all the scientists on all these different projects that they were going to have on there. And to me, that's one of the greatest values of the space program is the research return that's done there that has a value right here on Earth. I appreciate the fact that we're setting new goals and we're going on farther out, but I hope if we ever lose this concentration on things, doing research also that is a benefit to people right here on Earth, we'll have lost something that is very unique and a unique opportunity in the space program.
So the symbolism isn't the key for you, it's what we learn from doing it.
There is symbolism in going out, and will people be excited that when we land on Mars or go back to the moon or whatever? Sure, people will be excited. But the long-term benefit for people right here on Earth is going to come from what's learned that benefits people right here on Earth. Right. Not just a new space spectacular as the only goal. Right. I think that the capability of doing basic research in space is a unique laboratory. We've never had that in all human history. And I think it's wrong not to maximize that research return we have and that we can do on the station once it's completed. It's only about 2/3 complete right now. And so once it's completed, the current plan, of course, is to do research on there only as it applies to the moon and Mars.
Right, right.
And I think it should be broader than that. I think we should do the basic type research that the scientists have lined up to do for years and years and years.
Do you think the Mars mission is important?
Oh, I think it's important to set a goal like that. I've always thought that going to Mars sometime was sort of understood that we would have that as a goal sometime. I think it's good to set a goal like this and so that we start maybe working toward that. But I don't want to see that done at the expense of cutting out the other research on the station that will be of value, I think, right here on Earth. It's a very unique laboratory. For instance, I'll give you a good example on this. They were curious about flames. Here on Earth, of course, you light a candle, flame goes up. Right. That's because of convection of the air when it's heated. Up there, though, they light a wick up there, and the flame just sort of goes out like this in a ball, or the burning area, and they found that that in some of the study of the soot in this burning pattern now, they were able to keep combustion going with only about an 8% fuel-air ratio, and your automobile engine runs 70% fuel-air ratio. Now, the combustion experts are very interested. That's the kind of thing you can't foresee in advance.
Right.
It was a surprise to everybody that this thing happened up there.
Right.
And yet it may be of tremendous value right here on Earth.
Well, certainly a lot of surprises in space. I was looking over here at Alan Shepard's Freedom 7. Is that pretty similar to the Friendships that you flew?
The size of it and everything's identical. The instrumentation and some of that was a little bit different for the orbital flight.
It's amazing. That's such a small
it wasn't very
space.
big. Well, that's as big as we could put up at that time.
Right.
We were limited in the size of the spacecraft because we were better technically in some other areas than the Soviets.
They had bigger spacecraft.
Yeah, they had bigger spacecraft, but we were limited by the size of the booster that could lift us up there. And our boosters and the Soviets had been designed to deliver ICBMs.
Right.
Well, we had been better than they were in miniaturizing nuclear weapons.
So we had smaller rockets.
boosters, yeah.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Then when it came time for the manned program, why we were saddled with a smaller booster, so that's the size we were limited to back then. And the Soviets at that time, of course, had a great big booster because they had not been as good.
Right.
Their booster was designed for great big nuclear weapons.
See, sometimes it's better not to be as far advanced. Well, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. I thank you so much, Senator Glenn, for joining us, and what an honor.
Very cool. Later this week, Pat had a chance to check out the Space Shuttle Enterprise, so stay tuned for that. Now, still to come, we've been busy digging through the tech ads to find you the greatest deals. And up next, we'll tell our next caller, Wally, if he's cool sticking with the old Windows ME. That's all when the Screensavers continues.